And welcome back to episode 47 of The Hunt. Today you are joined by Aiden Potts and Mr. Cake Leonard. Say hello, mate.
Hello, mate.
So this is our first episode in ages.
Long time.
I think we were going to film episodes at the start of the year, but it was so hot and we didn't have aircon in this room until right now.
Yeah, lo and behold, we have aircon.
Which is good.
In the HPC media room, which recently saw a spring cleaning.
That as well, yeah. So it was so cluttered and we didn't really feel motivated to work in here, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
So Cake and I gave it a big old makeover, and it's way more inviting for, working in. And we filmed a podcast out of my house actually at one point because we just couldn't be coming to a gym where it was hot. But we installed a fridge at the gym, which was probably one of the best investments I've made, because we've just been able to use a little bit of the profit that comes from the fridge to, install an aircon and buy a few little bits and pieces like these candles and stuff, make the place feel a little bit nicer to film podcasting. But yeah, we're back in the swing of things now, which is great. And yeah, looking forward to putting out more regular content. Firstly, apologise for the way I look at the moment. I look like I just knocked off the friggin' site. But the week that is the 19th of May till the 24th of May, it's just raining literally sideways. So
it's bloody, flooding?
Flooding, hissing down rain. Yeah. But
down.
140 mil, 150 mil days, and it's just been ridiculous. So all my shoes are wet, essentially. So I'm down to the last resort of wearing the work boots, which I haven't worn since I started fitting out the gym, which is
a bit
crazy.
Sentimental, mate.
A bit sentimental. But yeah, so other than that, mate, I guess, it's been almost 6 months.
Yeah,
since we've
it's been a while,
podcast,
but we're so back.
We are back, but it'd be good to hear, I guess, what you've been up to over the last 6 months, where I guess powerlifting has taken you, you're coaching, you've settled into your role now at HPC.
Yeah, I've settled. Hang on, let me crack open a monster really quick. There we go. Yeah, I've settled in nicely, mate. I'm loving coaching. Loving just being here.
Yep.
In general, obviously training, getting around everyone, the environment. Since the last podcast, what have we been up to? I competed.
Yep.
I competed at a local meet here at HPC in April. Probably had best meet of my life.
Yes. Usually your PR, it's usually the best meet of your life.
Yep. Yeah. Fucking big total PR. Didn't go 9 for 9. Yeah. That's still a bit of a myth, but it'll happen one day. What else? We went to both National Series, Opens and Mega Nats recently.
Yep.
That's good fun.
And obviously that was like your first time coaching
at a national meet. Yeah, so it was great. I learned a lot. Especially at Mega Nats, just because I was around more people than I was at Opens and more battles as well.
Any key takeaways from those big events?
Just be really nice to all the other coaches around you, and that'll help you out to make sure you're actually doing the right thing by your athlete.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, making sure you putting the right numbers in for placings and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and even just helping warm ups out the back, loading bars.
Yeah, that's what I memeant by just being nice. Yeah,
it makes the load light.
Yeah, but you should be doing that anyway, not just to get something in return.
100%.
Yeah.
That's good, mate.
Yeah.
And what about your coaching team? How are they going?
Great. Yeah, really, really good. Got a pretty nice roster now. A lot of people starting to want to do comps throughout the year now. So
you also started with Gen Pop, right? And now it's
correct.
kind of
Yeah. Yep. So I've got I think 3 people so far have told me they want to do upcoming First Nations.
Yep.
So that's cool. So First Nations will be my first comp as a coach where I can sort of bring a team.
Yep.
Which is something I'm really, really excited for. So I've got Young Steele, for example. He's doing his first ever comp. He's 16.
Yep.
Very excited for him. Then I got Hayden will be doing his second comp to qualify for Open Nationals next year. Mm-hmm. And Bigger Neil doing his second bench-only comp before we do Masters Games in October at Canberra.
It's awesome, mate. That's good. And
no doubt more to come.
No doubt. And you enrolled at Newcastle Uni.
I did. So I got a transfer. Obviously, I used to live in Sydney for my whole life up until I think this time last year. So it's 21st of May. I moved to Newcastle on the 30th of May.
Wow.
So
That's gone quick.
I know, right? It's gone very quick. So, I got my transfer from Western Sydney Uni to University of Newcastle. So pretty much wrapping up the first semester now at UON, and I love it. A lot of like very small differences between UON and WSU. So I guess a bit of just like adapting to slight differences between the unis, but it's all a bit of like a contest between the unis, like, oh, our uni does this better than that uni.
So you've had to kind of re-enroll to subjects that you've already done.
Yeah, which is, pretty annoying considering like some of the subjects I even got like high distinctions in at WSU, but it's fine,
Yeah.
It's whatever. At least I'm up here. Everything's up here. Everything's home now.
What's the degree?
Exercise and sports science.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you plan to do a
master's in exercise physiology.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
Yeah, and you yourself, you're back at uni now.
Newcastle Uni.
Yeah.
I've had a really big 6 months. Like straight after Christmas, I've pretty much it hasn't stopped.
Let's address the big one. You got married.
I got married. I don't have my ring on, but that's because I don't want to damage it. I was thinking about getting a necklace and wearing it around my neck, but like I'd probably be taking it off just as much as I am putting it on with benching and stuff like that. But thinking about getting a silicone one, but I only wear it for like special events.
That's nice.
When I know I'm not around using my hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got married, which is amazing. It was a surprise wedding at my engagement.
It was a big surprise.
You were there?
I was there, and it was
big surprise.
It was very special, and we were all shocked. I mean, I'm sure. I think some people had a gut feeling.
Yeah.
But still a surprise nonetheless. And
we worked so hard to keep that under wraps. And
did well.
Just for the listeners at home, essentially, Elise wanted to elope, and I wanted the big, flashy wedding where you invite everyone, because every birthday of mine, every HPC Christmas party of mine, it's always big, and I just love being around people and celebrating together. It's why I am in the, I guess the coaching industry, because I just love helping and being around people. I love making
your
memories.
people.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we decided just to combine the two. We eloped a month before the engagement party, so we were already married at that point. And then once we obviously had the engagement, we announced that we were already married, and we just wanted to have the ceremony to share that moment with our loved ones. So that was really nice. It turned out to be a really good day, and the weather held off because we were meant to originally be outside, but it was forecasted to be pissing down rain. No surprise.
Yep.
And we ended up having it inside, which was okay, but we still got outside to get our photos and stuff, which is the main thing. But had all our close family there that travelled down from and around from Perth, Queensland, Tamworth, Barraba, Melbourne. Like, I was so happy with just the turnout.
It was very special.
Particularly with the fact that everyone thought it was just an engagement. So to be able to turn up at an engagement party and in such fashion, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Obviously I got married.
Competed at Open Nats?
Competed at Open Nats, came 5th. Had a pretty big total PR. I think I put on 25 kilos on my total.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I think I totaled 738, and then I missed my final pull, which would have been for 3rd, and I already reflected and whatnot on Instagram, but you can go check that out there. I don't want to rag too on about my lifting, but upcoming-wise, I'm going to Japan, which is exciting. I've got 7 lifters of my own competing at that one, doing bench only and 3 lift. So I've got my hands full. I think I've got like 6 platform coaching days.
There's a big HPC team going to Japan.
Yeah, so I'll be fucking flat out. But I'm also competing at that one, which is exciting. So I'm doing the 83s there, obviously, which will be my first international comp since 2018. So
that's so exciting.
Going to don the green and gold, which is exciting. What else? I have my honeymoon in Japan as well coming up, which I'm very excited about.
Yep.
You already mentioned I am studying at uni now. I've began my journey to becoming a physiotherapist.
Yep.
I was a bit, in 2 ways, like should I do physio or shouldn't I do physio? I had a lot of people say I shouldn't because I'm already doing...
Did you actually?
Yeah.
Right.
I speak to a lot of people in the industry, like, for example, Kelly. Like, we have a great professional relationship.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we bounce ideas off each other all the time. And she has done EP and now coaching and obviously directing Perth Motion. So I was talking to her and I was kind of like, what do you reckon? Like, do you reckon I should try and do this? Because I really want to offer it as a service at HPC. And like, whether or not it's kind of like she's already in the rehabilitation way of promoting that sort of service in powerlifting in Australia and doing so well of it. she just suggested professionally not to do it because you can just hire someone to do that for you. But I have been trying to hire someone as a physio, EP, masseuse for a very long time.
You have.
And it's been really hard to get someone in because it's a lot of hard work to start off on your own. So you've got to find the right person that fits that role that's willing to work hard.
Yeah.
There are great incentives that come in for working for yourself, but it does take a lot of work. And a lot of graduates just want to go work for someone who, just has all the experience in the world and they can get mentored by them.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? Like, I've done 7 years of a dentistry degree before. And I already work in the industry that revolves so heavily around biomechanics, functional anatomy, rehabilitation. Like we're handling with a lot of issues at HPC internally as it already is before they go see a health professional. Like we try to keep things as cost effective for the client, and we do a really good job of that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I thought to myself, you know what, it can't be that hard to do fucking physio. Long and behold, I've gone to enroll, and it was like a 97 ATAR requirement to get in. And I was like, oh, are you fucking serious? So I was juggling up with the uni, like what's going on? Like I've got my diploma in tertiary studies. I've got my experience of obviously doing dentistry, and I've got like my grading from that degree and all these subjects that I've done. And similar to you, UON being a little bit, our subjects are a bit better than theirs, and we hold it in more high regard, and we're not going to give you credits for this and that.
Yeah.
So, and also because I'm already in the industry and I have all the qualified experience in terms of being a coach, internationally speaking, even athletically speaking, they still said that I have to do, I guess, like what you guys would commonly call a bridging course. So
correct.
I'm enrolled into the Bachelor of Exercise Science with Kate.
Yep. So we run amok together in some classes, don't we?
It's funny as.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that later. But we will. Yeah, I'm doing some subjects with a subject with cake, and I'm doing another one. So I'm only doing 2 subjects, but the whole point is that I need to have a HD average, and at the moment I'm sitting on I think like 94 and 89. So
you're good for it.
I'm good for it. So and I'll be very surprised if I don't hold that HD average. And then basically next semester I enroll to physio and I start my career there as a physio student. So that's how I'm going about getting into the degree. And obviously it does take a lot of hard work to hold on to that HD average, but I'm surprising myself every day with how much I'm actually doing in terms of like running the company, being a coach, being a husband, being an athlete, being a student. It's all been really full on, but I think if you're not working as hard as you want to see yourself, I guess, not work as hard later on in life, you need to work hard now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the whole goal is to be a physio. Similar to how I'm a coaching role with HPC, like you become so experienced and qualified that people want to come, work for you and be part of your brand because of what you're doing, and they do want to be mentored by you as a coach. Quick note, I've got 2 Irish powerlifters flying over in September it's
exciting.
To do a bit of a mentorship with me as part of their degree at university. Emma and Chris, which will be great. So they're going to be here for 3 months and do I think it's like 500 hours worth of
so cool
mentoring or something.
Yeah,
but they're going to be.
I was chatting to Emma the other week,
That's
and
good.
she's very excited.
Yeah, so they're flying over and staying in Newcastle and coming to HPC every day to work alongside us too, which would be nice.
It's very cool.
So there's people that want to be part of, I guess, like the coaching realm with that mentoring of being a powerlifting coach, but I feel like I have to become a physio to be able to mentor physios to be better physios.
You want to lead from the front.
Yeah. And I don't want to be not a physio and hiring a physio and then not seeing eye to eye on how we see rehabilitation, because there's a lot of prehistoric stuff out there in terms of physiotherapy that's still getting around. And I think physios can do so much better in terms of way they run their businesses.
Agreed.
For the better of the client, and obviously for expanding the business as well at the same time. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it'll be really good.
Which would be nice. And then that's pretty much it. Heaps of shit going on. Always stuff going on, but we're back with the podcast. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
we're going to be doing this weekly. We've got one today, one on Friday, one on Monday. Then we've got 3 in the bank to just kind of keep rolling.
Yeah.
I am applying to go to Worlds as a coach. So
Costa Rica.
Yeah, Costa Rica. So that's probably the only time that I won't be here for a number of weeks. But that's why we get.
I'll hold down the fort.
I'll hold down the fort.
Yep.
But all right. Well, anyway, we'll get into today's topic. Now that everyone's up to speed, so we're going to talk about sets and reps. So Sets and reps. Basically, they're the backbone of progressive overload, the backbone of application when it comes to like what you're giving your clients beyond just an exercise, right? So I guess sets and reps are so important that you need to be understanding of what you need to apply to the client that's in front of you at what stage they are within their career. So whether they're obviously a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So the way that I see sets and reps is at what training age are they? So the tolerance of being able to handle X number of volume, because we do communicate in set volume or rep volume. And then obviously those two things with load equals tonnage.
Yep.
And then the second thing is beyond the tolerance is how efficient they are at moving.
Yeah.
So
100%.
In terms of technique, what is fatiguing for them, and that can dictate how much volume in terms of rep or set volume they can handle. So I guess, how do you see set and rep volume beyond that as well, or do you kind of disagree flat out?
I do agree flat out with what you're saying, but I think as well, like if we can dive deeper into things like ascending sets, I'll typically give ascending sets for someone who I think needs to just like push a little more.
Yeah, okay, well, let's just talk about ascending sets for now. So what are ascending sets?
So ascending sets are, say you have 3 ascending sets, and we're going off RPE, you have your first ascending set of 3 at like RPE 4, then 5, then 6. So the idea is that the load ascends as you go. All right. And then there can also be like ascending load, but descending reps.
Yep.
Very similar thing.
Very similar. Yeah. And what are you looking to train when you have someone that does ascending sets?
Just their tolerance to load.
Yep.
And I guess you can look at it very similar to like the competition attempts.
Yep.
So, typically we'll do like 3 ascending sets, start at your first attempt, work up to your third attempt.
Yep.
Just feel the weight as you go. Push yourself a bit more each time.
Yep. So the way that I see ascending sets is like you have people who overshoot quite chronically, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's done on their first set. So generally by having them achieve a heavier load later on in the session, so on the highest ascending set, you can pre-exhaust them or train something around their technique to build up to that intensity so they can execute it.
Yep.
So there's that lens to look at it as well.
Yeah.
But tolerating higher intensities frequently is a skill that a lot of powerlifters need, because obviously you have 3 attempts at loads 90+% of your 1 RM.
Yeah, you need to get good at essentially executing heavier loads.
Yeah, and that could be anything. That could be literally your position. It could be it could be because of your grip. It could be because of your ability to overcome emotionally the loads that you are handling, because they are relatively heavy.
Yeah.
I find that ascending sets are great for off-season training as well, in terms of being beyond like 12 weeks out from a competition.
Yeah.
Purely because you have people that I guess like are very strong, and you want to keep them away from that upper end intensity, but you can keep the element of specificity in the program with relative intensity still being quite high.
Yep.
So I like putting ascending sets in a lot of people's programs for a primary day, for example.
Yeah. Me too.
When they're far out from competition. But then when they get close to the competition, it's quite easy to account for top end load when you do remove those first, second ascending sets in a program, because they aren't hitting the, I guess, like higher intensity loads under as much fatigue, which is definitely helpful.
Yep.
One point I do want to make though is like a misconception that a lot of athletes and coaches generally think that more is better when it comes to prescribing sets and reps.
Not necessarily.
No. So for as I said at the beginning of the video, it comes down to your
athlete.
Yeah, it comes down to your training age as the athlete, but also your ability to be efficient with moving under the bar.
Yep.
And what we always are looking for in terms of progressive overload is doing more. But the thing is that if you always want to do more and you're already doing as much as you are, but not to the, I guess, like extent you should be doing them, whether it's moving really well, making real nice quality adaptations to the exercises that you're doing, then you're kind of just adding layers of stimulus to a system that is only going to adapt in a shit way.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're someone on bench that real easy example that you press and your ribs drop as you press and you are constantly overloading that system of how you move under the bar with more sets and reps, you're just going to get better at training that system that really is the thing that's breaking down.
Exactly right.
Similar to like if you do deadlifts and like your back position is giving way or you're hitching towards the end of a set because your legs get tired. In a conventional stance, we see that for a lot of big boys and girls who really struggle on getting their knees out of the road towards the back end of the set because their legs simply get tired. Training that ramp or that inefficiency is literally what's going to break down, I guess, like your technique at the top end because you're layering that system in your brain to be like, this is how I pick up this weight. Because I do so many sets and reps at this weight.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's just practice.
It is.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, so I think people wanting to always do more, you should always ask yourself, am I already moving the best I possibly can from not necessarily a gold standard way, but a way
there is no gold standard.
There is no gold standard, but what I'm saying is like that your gold standard. So
that's correct. Yeah.
And the gold standard is lifting to the rule book. Yeah. That's the gold standard. If you're lifting to the rule book and you should know with a decent training age what you break down with it on your lifts. So, for example, yours is your grip on deadlifts. If you know that that's where you're breaking down, then that should be the limiter to understanding, okay, how much volume should I be doing in terms of set volume and rep volume? Would you agree?
I completely. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so that covers ascending sets. That covers a misconception of thinking that you should be doing more than what you should be because it's not always better.
Yep.
But the next one I want to talk about is, and this is an interesting one because it obviously gets around on social media quite a fair bit, but understanding how structures change for a desired adaptation around building strength, building muscle, and also endurance. So, and obviously in terms of powerlifting, endurance doesn't have much to do with it. I would say the only thing that is specific to endurance in powerlifting is lasting the entire meet. So SBD days are really common. In a very rare case do I program SBD days, but definitely if you're on a 4-day split, you're most likely doing, squat and bench or bench and deadlifts
on the same day.
On the same day, yeah. So I think SBD fitness is heavily underrated, particularly for intermediate powerlifters because they just get so tired towards the end of the day.
Yeah.
And also it helps you as the coach in terms of like assessing the data, like how realistic you can be with the athlete's ability to make an attempt jump or how much compensation you're looking for through their taper based off their training performances doing primary squat, bench and deadlift sessions during the week together. A lot easier as a coach to make those attempts and create predictability, right?
Yeah, correct.
But what about making, if you should know the answer to this, but if you're looking to build strength and muscle or strength or muscle, what sort of rep ranges should you be looking for?
Like 8 to 12?
No, mate, that's the wrong answer. Every rep range.
Oh, well, there you go.
Fuck. It's all right. You failed. No, but you are.
Go on.
Okay, you are correct because this is the thing when it comes to building muscle and strength, right?
Yeah.
There are rep ranges that promote obviously larger amounts of strength adaptations. Yeah. Okay, because they're specific to the sport that we do. You want to be strong at reps 1 to fucking 3, right?
Yeah.
But 1 is the main one.
Yeah.
For muscle.
It's as long as you're going close to proximity of failure.
Yeah, that's the very smooth brain way to think about it. Yeah. But the thing is that you could go to failure with a set of 8, a set of 12, or a set of 15, or a set of 20, or a set of 3. But the thing is that as you go through the cycle of completing repetitions and completing a set, by the end of getting towards those high repetitions, like a set of 12, it's not just the motor neurons that you're accruing to fire more muscle fibers in contractions to create the movement to continue to happen, but it's also the metabolic waste that you're also creating in that process by lifting at such high-end rep ranges.
Yeah.
So for people who do like 12 plus reps, or even some people, they get to 12 reps or even 8 reps because they're so unfit and their body isn't like cardiovascularly ready for that stimulus. There's things like lactic acid buildup, like metabolites, a lot of waste that occurs around the tissue that you're using that can limit you to hypertrophy. So for some people, like doing sets of 6 to 8 can actually be really beneficial from a hypertrophy standpoint, right?
Yep.
But the most common way to go about it, because you become quite trained quite quickly with those rep ranges, is you could probably do sets of 8 to 12 and be within that range, within the proximity of failure. But for some people who are in the 105 plus category, they probably find it quite hard to actually get to that rep range close to failure without experiencing like lactic buildup or like increased heart rate or shortness of breath or execution through joint actions, and being able to remain, under good technique to promote full use of muscle fibers. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing I wanted to clear up. But it's all right to be wrong, bro. Like fucking
8 to 12.
You're jacked as fuck. Like obviously 8 to 12 works, right? And it's probably what you've been doing your whole life. But when it comes to actually providing a hypertrophy program, it is super important that you want to make sure that it's clear on what the athlete can actually do with the given rep ranges that you're doing, knowing how gassed they are. And that comes down to context, right? Like how you communicate with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A nice way that I like to promote, I guess, muscle growth for those people who struggle to get to 8 to 12 and struggle to stay up and not feel those metabolic elements of wasting away at the side of growth is applying things like myosets, right?
Yep.
So myosets are great because you are taking the tissue close to the proximity of failure, but not beyond the point of absolutely killing yourself.
Yeah.
So like, for
better
example,
than MRAPs.
Better than MRAPs in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because, you can be doing a pendulum squat, which is a great example. You could be doing a set of 8 at RPE 7. So you've got relatively, 3-ish reps left in the tank.
Yeah, getting there.
And you can either do the 3 reps to go to RPE 10 and then have like a few breaths and stay under the weight and keep going and having like 5-second rest pauses in between just for the sake of doing an MRAP. Or you can be a smarter coach and tell them to do myosets where you do a set of 8 at RP 7, you rack the weight, so the weight's off your shoulders. You don't get out of the machine, you stay under it though.
Yeah.
You take 3 to 4 deep breaths. Okay. So you're helping assist to bring down the heart rate, get oxygen into the system. Like I know a lot of people who do MRAP sets, particularly on the pendulum and hack squat, even belt squat, sometimes leg press, probably leg press more than others.
Yeah.
You tend to get like a bit of like a, not like a migraine, but like a lot of pressure built up in your head, and it can be quite irritating for some people.
Yeah.
So collecting yourself and getting your breath back for a myoset after that first set of 8, getting 3 to 4 breaths in, then jumping back under the machine, doing another 2 to 3 reps of the same load that you just did for 8. So now you're sitting at 10 to 11 reps. Repeat the sequence again, take another 3 to 4 breaths with the weight off your shoulders, and then get back under the machine, do 2 to 3 reps. And you continue doing that sequence, because with that method, you're going within the proximity of failure
multiple times,
4 to 5 more times. And that application of training is so useful for people who really struggle to, I guess, avoid those effects that come with doing high rep sets. But you can still do high rep sets in a way that is programmed in a smart manner. So
yeah, correct.
So yeah, that's a nice little tip for y'all out there. But it goes without saying as well, but when you're someone who is looking to build strength, are you looking to program more or less sets?
Less.
Why is that?
Less sets with... I mean, it depends of what stage they're at in their training block, right? And also what day of their program they're on.
Is that a hard answer? Yes.
It actually is a hard answer.
Oh, really?
Now that I'm really thinking about
this is good because I've got a rebuttal.
This is a hard answer. But yeah, like I was about to say, it does depend as well what day their program they're on, like primary, secondary. Typically on someone's primary, say primary deadlift day, for instance, I'd be giving them less, but keeping the intensity higher, but relative to, I guess, how far out they are from their competition, right? Whereas on a secondary day, especially if they're an efficient sumo lifter, for example, right? Just give them more. Right? But the intensity doesn't necessarily have to be as high as their primary day where they're doing less but more in terms of intensity. Does that make sense?
It does.
A good answer?
Yeah, but I would say like there is no right or wrong, because as a coach,
that too, yeah.
If you're getting stronger, right, doing your ascending sets in an off-season program with X number of rep volume, like if you take that away and give them like less sets and less reps, because traditionally you want to be doing less reps to be able to spend more time specifically lifting around the percentages of what you want to lift in competition. Yeah. That can lead to detraining, or not detraining completely, but it can stop you from creating as much of a stimulus towards actually getting stronger.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I think that's why I felt very conflicted as soon as I answered your question.
Okay, because I said I'm going to rebuttal you.
Yeah. It's because obviously at the end of the day, it's you give the lifter what you know works for them.
Yeah. So for example, if you're doing 3x8, right, and you're telling me that you're going to drop set volume, like where do you go from there?
Well, does the 3x8 work?
So 3x8 high bar with like a fucking low bar day of 2x3, 3x6.
Yeah.
So the 3x8 high bar day, I'm not necessarily going to be dropping set volume, because if it's working on the primary day, I'm probably going to just drop rep volume and keep that volume stimulus in there.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
And then similarly, if the lifter's doing 2x3 and 3x6 on their low bar day, that's 5 sets. I am probably not going to drop the sets completely. I'm probably going to move maybe 1 set. Yeah. But even then, you got to remember that like the set volume is what helps you accumulate volume, because you're not getting rep volume as much in terms of the strength
that you need
program
for your primary day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think to kind of get an understanding of like you can reduce sets and still get stronger, because you're reducing fatigue because you're not getting as fingered by fucking volume. Yeah. But you still may need the volume to be able to continue making like meaningful adaptations to be able to continue getting stronger. Yeah, exactly. So what do? You reduce the rep volume, so you can spend more time around a specific load close to the competition loads. But you probably might want to increase set volume so you don't completely like desensitize all the way. And then the other point is that if you are actually holding on to set volume, or just volume in general, you're actually able to pull something when it comes to tapering for a meet.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because if you go from doing like 4x3 to 2x3, like you've got 6 reps to work with in terms of being able to taper from that stimulus.
Yeah, it's not
a lot, right? Yeah. You may as well just do a single and then you're done. But even then, like a single is enough to detrain someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who isn't like a advanced lifter, because advanced lifters generally need stimulus all the time, because if they don't, you feel it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I think that's an important note, is that like you need set volume and rep volume for an effective removing volume to actually get a taper out of your preps. Yeah. So that comes down to individualization. And here at HPC, we are so heavily driven by creating meaningful adaptations using volume, because it limits load. So you're not lifting as heavy all year round, and you're able to make meaningful adaptations that can be controlled when you do taper and you are able to peak.
Yeah.
Because
that way you actually can get that super compensation.
You can, yeah. Like it's actually an effect.
Yeah.
And we want the fatigue to be accumulated as a result of the volume and the tonnage that you're doing, not by the fucking heavy ass sets.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
That's a good point. Does that help you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. 100%. And then also you got to remember like rest times as well. Like hypertrophy stimulus. Obviously, like you're not going to be resting as long.
Yep.
Strength sets and reps, you're going to be resting a little bit longer, because
you need to.
Neurally, it's going to be a bit harder.
Yeah.
But I guess how does it change around like different populations of people too? So I've already mentioned like the better you get in terms of being a advanced powerlifter, you tend to understand what you need in terms of like, okay, for my deadlift to feel strong on this day, I know I need this. For me to do a heavy bench on this day, I know I need to bench this much sets and reps load for potentially an exercise. Yeah. Like people love doing machine gun bench press.
Oh yeah.
Like anything that I need to do the day before I bench, I need to do this. And that makes me feel strong.
Yep.
So I think what I like to do for beginners is to get them really good at handling volume.
Yeah.
And I not smother them, but I kind of like get them to understand, okay, for you to be as strong as you want to be down the track, we need to actually build up your work capacity, which is something that a lot of people talk about.
Yeah, and that you wouldn't just get someone to max out straight away.
No.
We never do that.
Yeah, so like there's building resilience through joint actions, good technique because of low intensity, many opportunities to practice the thing that you're trying to improve on because you are doing such high rep ranges. Like there are a lot of benefits that come from high rep volume training for beginners. But the main one is, as I said, is work capacity, building that work capacity. And that's something that I value very highly with beginners. Like I even have 120 kilo athletes or 120 plus kilo athletes do fucking pretty high volume programs when they first come to the gym.
That's sick.
Because, you know, they're big people and they're young most of the time, and you just want to take care of not only their health, but you know that like down the track when you do go to peak, you do have something to pull from and you can rely on that stimulus. Like you're not banking in on it, you're relying on the fact
that it'll work.
It will work because I will pull rep volume and give you a little bit more set volume to compensate for not completely detraining, but I will give you less volume down the track, and I know because of that result, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel stronger. But yeah, what about I guess for more like intermediate to advanced? Like I guess once they're a beginner, you kind of already know like what they've been doing because it's quite traditional.
Yeah.
But once it gets more specific around like what actually works, like what sort of things are you looking for?
I guess like, obviously this is when I feel like you would get more specific to the way that they move and their body moves, right? So let's take high arch bench presses or like people with like big rib cages, right? You're going to start looking at volume that puts them through like a different plane of motion. So like say a close grip bench, for example, give them that more range that they may be lacking. But also because you know that they're strong and efficient in that high arch position, get them to actually train that way through their accessories as well, right? So things like machine chest press, flat bench dumbbell, even tricep katanas, getting them to actually flare their ribs up towards the bar that they would be benching when they're actually doing that exercise,
I would probably say as well, if they're an intermediate lifter and they've got a really big arch in rib cage, they're probably going to be needing to not be as specific as they think they are, because they're probably at a point where they're seeing all these like amazing advanced bench presses and they're probably thinking, fucking bench 5 times a week and like everything is arched as fuck and whatnot. But generally speaking, like you do want to try and make sure that you are building resilience through the tissue of, say, for example, your pecs in a shortened range, or protraction, upward rotation of your scaps, retracting your rib cage. Like a lot of these qualities will continue to always help set you up for the baseline of what you need to prevent injury in the future. Because if you're constantly jamming, being a big archer,
you're gonna get hurt if you like say you have someone and you recognize early on that they're a big archer, big rib cage. You don't want them to get hurt if you instantly put them on like 5 days a week bench, or instantly be like, okay, you're good at doing this with your ribs on bench, do it in all your accessories. You want to as you said, kind of gradually expose them.
And I think that's where you become a coach that steps in and you not necessarily purposely slow down their progress, but you're just looking out for their longevity.
Exactly,
you purposely reduce their like comp specificity, and as a result, their set volume, because they're already good at benching when it comes to off-season training. But then as you get closer to competition, you definitely ramp up the set volume, because you want them to start to really dial in what they need. And you will find that removing most of those, movement variability exercises that reduce overuse injury, because they are so specifically good at benching, that can also give them something that you can rely on, because you know that they're going to respond well to just doing a bigger bench with higher set volume. Because you similar to the thing where you can account for and rely on removing volume for someone going from a higher volume block to a low volume block. Like they're just going to get stronger because simple periodization, right? But
correct.
You can also rely on that factor as well. All right, so I guess the next thing we'll go on to is just some real world examples that we have here at HPC. Like we can probably talk about ourselves really, but
sure.
I will note that like a real world example of what I experience every day is so many lifters will see a lifter doing something. Like I remember the sets of 7-8 craze on deadlifts that went through Instagram for a while, and I was a culprit of them doing them, and they have worked for me. But so many people, athletes, they see things on social media and they think that they should be doing that or that they're missing out on that key thing. But you're just another suspect to, I guess, like buying into the newest thing, and you're probably avoiding the thing that is actually going to make you a stronger powerlifter at the end of the day. Because your connection to your training, your individualized sets and reps is just bought into by your perception of another person doing something else that they're getting stronger at with. So,
and they're probably not even moving the same way that you move too.
Yeah, that's another key thing. Like, if you see someone doing high rep volume and high set volume in a quite specific powerlifting program, like they're close to competition or whatever, it's probably because it works really well for them. And if you watch how they move,
they're probably not a beginner too.
Yeah, and they're probably fucking weapons as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But that doesn't mean that one day it won't work for you. It just means that like you're in a position in that moment to realize that like, oh, that's good, that's working for them. I know that what I'm doing right now, my coach has my best interest to be the strongest powerlifter I can be. And he's not going to fluff, or he or she is not going to fluff me around to not make gains. Like we obviously, all us coaches in the world, we want to make our athletes stronger. Yeah. So having the best interests at heart is always number one. Yep. And you should make sure that you're communicating that with your coach in terms of understanding why you're doing what you're doing with the rep ranges that you have. And you should always be communicating why things feel the way they do once you've done them.
Exactly.
So if you get given a program and you look at it and go, fuck, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, just do it. I get a program from Steve. I do not even question it.
Same.
Because I'm always answering questions every single day of the week. I just want to be an athlete. I just want to do the work. Literally. And I know that Steve is going to write me something that
he's going to cook.
Well, there are times that, and he takes ownership for things that don't work sometimes, which I love.
But you know what? That's because we're all human too.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you have any real life world experiences that you can think of? Even if like you have a client that something's worked really well for them or hasn't worked well, and you've been able to fix it because of set rep volume. You're going to make me crop this bit out, because you're taking so long.
Nah, do you have anyone that comes to your mind while I think, or?
Like Luke Talley.
Yeah.
Like understanding short range of motions means that you can fucking flog volume.
Oh, yeah.
But since moving to uni at Sydney, he is struggling to keep up that set rep volume because, unfortunately, with how high he is in terms of like little leg stature, he accumulates so many more steps now that it's actually chewed into his set rep volume. So that's the other thing as well, is that your set rep volume at the end of the day is meaningful adaptations made by a stimulus. And the thing you got to understand as powerlifters is that meaningful adaptations don't just come from training, but they come from your life. Yeah, so correct. How much activity you do in terms of daily expenditure, being stressed about money, about your relationships, or about study or whatever, like all that will bleed into your ability to adapt, and therefore how much set rep volume you can actually handle. Yeah. So that's been a real life example for me. Yeah. What about, talk about friggin' like listening to your body and not being stubborn to just continue doing more, like actually being like, hey, coach,
actually follow the RPE.
Well, that's intensity. I'm talking about sets and reps. Like I actually think I'm doing too much. You know what I mean? Or maybe I'm not doing enough. And logging your training and tracking those sort of like patterns as well.
So what you mean, like skipping a set if you feel like it's one too many?
Yeah, for sure. Like I know sometimes for me, I'll get to week 4, I would have done my primary deadlift on a Wednesday, and I feel beat up. Yeah, I'll add more QL oblique crunches into my program, or I might go stretch my hamstrings with a couple sets of doing something else. Being so in tune with your body. Like I'm doing stuff in my program that Steve doesn't necessarily know about because I know what my body needs when it feels a certain way, and that just comes from experience. Yeah, I mean, me too in that aspect. Like things like, I probably don't do them as much as I should, but they're like the Zercher RDLs, right? Yeah. You need to fucking do them, mate.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm getting better.
Okay.
But things like that, like I'll just do it because I know my body needs it, not necessarily in the program. Yeah. Still, obviously, let my coach know, let Big Stevie know. But things like that, and touching back on that, like even I've had athletes who have communicated to me like, hey, I didn't do the last set of deadlifts today because I just felt too cooked.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, let's take that set out.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And it's particularly if it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If it's like a one-off, then I probably won't really act on it.
Yep.
Especially if like maybe they're in their last week of their block and they're already fatigued. But if it's happening more than once, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. Sort that out for you.
Yep. Last point. What about athletes that are kind of like married to a certain set and rep range?
So like they're obsessed with doing like 3x8 on squat, for example, or saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're bought into it and they're in the belief that it works, then it probably is going to work.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Anything works if you believe it.
Exactly right. Yeah.
But I think people who are married to certain rep ranges, you got to remember that you should be actually married to the concept of how adaptations occur.
Yeah.
So it may be worthwhile doing your 3x8 continuously, but your body is always adapting because of your external stimulus. Unless you're a fucking boring person, you should always be trying to look for things that can improve your 1 rep max.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
sometimes doing the same thing over and over again doesn't work because it becomes stale.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So yeah, we encourage all listeners to reevaluate their training. And obviously, like, if you guys have any questions about sets and reps, feel free to message either Cake or I, and we'll get back to you on Instagram. But other than that, First Nations on the 26th of July. Make sure you register if you can. Come on down and celebrate culture, strength, and all things moving forward in the sport of powerlifting with involvement of every single person, no matter what colour, race, religion you are. Very excited for that competition.
Such a good event.
Yeah. And lastly, if you have any ideas on what you want to hear from the podcast, feel free to also message the page or Jarrod or I.
Should we do like a Q&A story box?
Oh, we can, but we've got some ideas coming up.
Okay.
But like,
we'll say that for another time.
Yeah, if we have some genuine listeners that want to hear things from us, then we'll obviously
just reach out.
Yeah. And as always, if you need any coaching services, whether it's in person, online, you can reach out to either AidenPotts_HPC or
Jarrod_HPC on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Take care. And we'll see you in the next one.
We will. Thank you.